I'll never forget the morning I first stepped into my new living room and felt the weight of what I'd done. I thought moving to a smaller home would make life easier, less dusting, less clutter, more freedom. But instantly I realized something subtle happens when you clear out decades of belongings too fast. The empty shelves looked tidy, but they didn't feel like home. There was a hollowness pressing against my chest, reminding me that the things we hold onto aren't just objects, they're pieces of our lives. Grandma had said it 100 times when I was young, leaning on her worn armchair, stirring Sunday stew. If you rush to get rid of things, you'll lose more than your clutter, you'll lose pieces of your life, she said. I thought I could pack memories away efficiently and move on, but after 60, something changes. Your heart keeps score even when your home looks perfect. I could see all my mistakes laid bare, rushing, tossing things without remembering their stories, focusing on efficiency over connection. The goal is a home that feels calm but full of soul, and I had lost that in my hurry. Here's the secret. You don't need to keep everything to honor your past, and you don't need to clear it all to feel free. By the end of this story, you'll see how I learned to honor my memories without drowning in clutter, how small shifts, keeping a favorite chair in a sunny corner, soft lamps filling dark spaces, arranging photos to highlight the moments that matter, instantly changed how my home felt. You can do the same and rediscover the joy of downsizing without losing the heart of your home. Mistake 1. Mistaking empty space for emotional peace. Grandma always reminded me, empty space doesn't equal peace, it equals emptiness if your heart isn't in it. I thought I understood, but the moment I started packing, I realized how wrong I was. I imagined that clearing shelves and stacking boxes neatly would instantly calm me, but something subtle happened. I felt a chill in the empty corners. The quiet didn't soothe me, it pressed against my chest, reminding me that the things we hold onto aren't just objects, they carry the warmth of our lives and the laughter, stories, and small moments that quietly shaped our days. I almost threw away Grandma's old wooden mixing spoon without thinking. The moment I picked it up, the smell of her kitchen and the faint aroma of buttered bread from Sunday dinners came rushing back. Her laughter seemed to fill the room, soft and familiar, and I suddenly understood that the spoon wasn't just wood, it was a memory, a connection, a piece of love that couldn't be replaced. I held it carefully in my hand, noticing the tiny scratches and worn edges from years of stirring sauces and stews. It was a reminder that clearing space doesn't create peace. Honoring what carries our story does. After 60, something subtle happens with space and memory. We think that empty surfaces equal calm, that a bare shelf or a tidy table will naturally make us feel lighter, but the opposite often occurs. The goal is balance. Peace comes from keeping what matters visible in the right way. I began small, placing the spoon in a ceramic cup on the counter, arranging a faded cookie tin from the 70s on a side table where the morning sun hit it just right, and leaving a favorite chair angled toward the window so the light fell softly across it. Each choice was deliberate, yet subtle, and instantly the room began to feel alive again. The empty corners softened, and the space started to breathe with warmth and quiet familiarity. I also noticed that visual principles naturally affect how a room feels emotionally. Soft lighting, items grouped intentionally in odd numbers, and leaving a few centimeters of space between objects makes the room breathe and the eye rest. It's remarkable how a single lamp in the corner, casting a warm glow, or a small plant next to a cherished photograph instantly transforms a bare shelf into a space that feels lived in and comforting. Even small decisions, like the height of a stack of books or the placement of a bowl on the counter, can create calm without adding clutter. One of the most important lessons I learned was that peace isn't in empty space, it's in thoughtful placement that celebrates memory while keeping things functional. As we age, our perception of what matters in a home naturally shifts. The objects that carry memories suddenly become anchors, little reminders of a life well lived. I realized that rushing to empty every shelf or closet only left me with a home that looked neat but felt hollow. When I started honoring memories intentionally, keeping one spoon, one photo, one small keepsake at a time, the space instantly felt lighter, warmer, and more inviting. Each glance around the room brought comfort instead of guilt, the kind of calm that sinks into your chest and eases your shoulders without thinking about it. By the time I finished arranging that first shelf, I finally understood what Grandma meant. Peace doesn't come from removing everything. It comes from carefully keeping the items that tell your story, making space for memories, and letting your home breathe. That little wooden spoon, placed just right, transformed the room and my heart at the same time. The goal is never emptiness. It's the kind of calm that fills both your home and your spirit, naturally, instantly, and beautifully, with the warmth of a life remembered. This version is now approximately 3,500 characters while maintaining a warm, first-person, storytelling flow. Mistake 2. Prioritizing speed over connection. Rushing had always felt efficient to me, and I thought moving quickly would make the transition smoother. But Grandma's words kept echoing in my mind, like a gentle warning I had never fully absorbed. Slowly, lovingly, that's the only way to do it. I thought I was being responsible, ticking off boxes and clearing rooms in record time, but something subtle happens when speed replaces care. You miss the moments that matter most. The living room looked nearly empty in just a few hours, every chair stacked, every end table gone, and at first, I felt a flicker of pride. It looked organized, it looked tidy, but the warmth had vanished. I donated half my living room furniture in a single morning, imagining that downsizing meant discarding the extras without a second thought. I didn't think about what those pieces represented. The chair Grandma always set out for Christmas Eve, the small side table where my daughter used to place her coloring books when she was little, the lamp that cast a soft glow over the corner where we'd share stories. Without thinking, I had removed more than just furniture. I had removed layers of connection, silent markers of family history. When my daughter arrived and noticed the missing holiday chair, her disappointed silence hit me harder than I expected. One of the most painful lessons is realizing that fast decisions can erase connection, not just clutter. As we age, something subtle happens with memories and objects. Every piece in a home carries a story, a touchpoint for love and shared moments. I remember staring at the empty corner where the chair had been, feeling a pang of regret, thinking of Grandma and the years we spent around that seat, laughing, reading, or just being together. That's when I understood that downsizing isn't just a physical task, it's an emotional one. You can't measure efficiency in boxes or empty floors. The goal is to honor what matters while gently letting go of what doesn't. Here's the secret I discovered. Moving slowly allows you to reconnect with the past, relive small moments, and preserve them in meaningful ways. I started reversing some of my rapid decisions, reclaiming a few key pieces that had been hastily donated or packed. The holiday chair returned to its rightful spot near the window, the lamp was placed back on the side table where the sunlight hit it just right, and I arranged a small stack of books my daughter had loved as a child on the lower shelf. Each choice took minutes, not seconds, but instantly the room felt alive again, warm and welcoming, the kind of home that invites lingering, not rushing. I also learned that visual principles tie directly into emotional benefits. Grouping items with intention, leaving soft spaces for the eye to rest, and letting cherished furniture face natural light instantly changes how a room feels. After 60, your home becomes not just a shelter but a reflection of your life, and the placement of a single chair or lamp can anchor memories in ways that empty floors never can. Even small adjustments, like angling a chair toward the window to catch morning sunlight or leaving a favorite throw folded on the sofa, naturally create comfort and connection without clutter. The lesson settled in deeply. Prioritizing speed over connection robs a home of warmth and memories. One of the most meaningful discoveries is that the pace at which you downsize matters as much as what you keep. By slowing down, listening to your instincts, and honoring the emotional value of every object, you can create a space that feels rich with history, love, and gentle comfort. That morning, when I finally placed the chair and the lamp back, the room didn't just look right, it felt like home again. The goal is not a rushed transformation. It's a thoughtful one that instantly reminds you and your family why every piece has a place and why memories need space to live naturally. Mistake 3. Downsizing before designing a new daily life. Grandma had told me countless times, shape your life first, then shape your home around it. I thought I understood, but moving into my smaller house proved otherwise. My kitchen, once bustling with Sunday dinners, felt cramped. Counters didn't allow the same flow, cupboards barely held my favorite dishes, and my reading corner with sunlight streaming through the side window was gone. Even my closet felt too tight, squeezing out the memories that made getting dressed a small daily joy. The little things I had overlooked, like the corner where Grandma's tea kettle always sat or the spot where my cat used to nap, suddenly felt missing, and the emptiness didn't feel peaceful at all. I had reduced space before imagining the life I wanted to live inside it. Boxes were stacked neatly, rooms looked organized, but without considering daily rhythms, the house felt lifeless. Something subtle happens when you prioritize empty space over purpose. The home loses its soul. My habits and routines didn't shrink with the walls, and it wasn't the furniture or shelves that made me feel cramped. It was the missing sense of flow, the rituals that had kept my home alive. I missed the sound of Sunday music spilling from the radio while stirring stew, the way sunlight hit the armchair just right for reading, and even the small clutter that meant life was happening there. Here's the secret I learned the hard way. Design life first, then home second. I pictured my ideal day after 60. Morning coffee at the window, eggs cooking to my favorite playlist, afternoons reading in bright light, evenings arranging little projects in corners that felt naturally inviting. Each empty room became a chance to support the life I wanted, not just a spot to place furniture. It was like seeing the house with new eyes, mapping out each movement, and suddenly the possibilities felt exciting instead of limiting. I began making small but meaningful adjustments. A rolling kitchen cart kept dishes and utensils within reach, restoring the natural flow of cooking without overcrowding counters. My reading corner returned with a comfortable chair, soft throw, and small side table for books and a mug. The closet was reorganized vertically with slim hangers and low shelving, keeping favorite outfits accessible while leaving space for seasonal items. I even added a small basket for knitting supplies in the living room corner, something subtle that made the room feel alive again. Each change was intentional, measured so walking through the house felt effortless and joyful. As we age, our homes must evolve with routines. After 60, small irritations become obvious. Steps that feel too long, counters too high, empty corners cold and unwelcoming. Designing life first shows which spaces need warmth, function, or breathing room. When life drives design, something subtle happens. Rooms feel alive, functional, and emotionally nourishing. Paths felt natural, sunlight hit the spaces I needed, and the house breathed with me instead of feeling like a stranger's space. The goal is a home that supports living, not just looks tidy. Placing chairs in sunlight, leaving walking paths clear, grouping items for easy reach, and keeping cherished objects where they bring joy instantly transformed the energy of the house. Downsizing without designing life first is like planting flowers without checking sunlight. They may survive, but they won't thrive. Arranging my kitchen, reading nook, and closet around the life I wanted, the house became welcoming, functional, and warm, honoring both memory and daily living. I finally understood what Grandma meant. A home should hold your life, not just your things, and after 60, that feeling is more valuable than any square footage could ever be. Mistake 4. Letting shame decide what stays and what goes. Your home is for living, not for impressing anyone, Grandma used to say, her voice warm but firm. I remembered those words only after I'd already started purging my things too quickly, letting shame steer the decisions. Minimalism trends promised simplicity and elegance, but I let them make me feel guilty about what I owned, as if memories and sentimental objects were clutter to be embarrassed by. I boxed up my mother's handwritten recipes, some old jewelry, even a stack of letters from childhood friends, not because I wanted to, but because I thought anyone looking at my home would judge me for holding on to them. That day, I paused and heard Grandma again, as if she were in the room beside me. Shame had no place in my home. Memory, love, and intention were the only guides worth following. I realized instantly that discarding objects without connection didn't create freedom. It created a hollow, sterile space that made me feel smaller instead of lighter. The goal is not to impress, it's to honor the life you've lived, the laughter, the milestones, the tiny moments that made a house a home. After 60, something subtle happens. You start to understand that your treasures, no matter how small, carry your story and deserve to be treated with care. I started slow, one drawer at a time. In the kitchen, I kept Grandma's old mixing bowls because the weight and warmth of them reminded me of the afternoon spent baking together. On the bookshelf, I kept the photo albums with handwritten captions from decades past, letting the stories live on where they could be seen without taking over the room. Even in the living room, a small ceramic vase, chipped at the rim, stayed because it had once held wildflowers from my mother's garden, instantly bringing a smile each time I glanced at it. Each decision was guided by feeling rather than fear, by warmth rather than trends. I discovered a simple principle: create zones in your home that balance memory and movement. One shelf could display meaningful items without overcrowding the space, a single drawer could hold cherished letters and mementos, and a corner table could showcase objects that made you feel happy to walk into the room. Adding small visual markers like framed photos at eye level or a cozy throw on a chair instantly made the room feel intentional and welcoming, without looking cluttered. These adjustments weren't about perfection. They were about making space for life, not judgment. As we age, the weight of what others might think can sneak in without thinking. I realized I had to give myself permission to curate my life by love, not shame. After 60, one of the most freeing feelings is knowing that every item you choose to keep serves a purpose, emotionally, practically, or aesthetically, and nothing stays out of guilt or embarrassment. My home slowly transformed from a sterile, minimalist space into one that breathed warmth, connection, and authenticity. Here's the secret: when you let shame guide you, you lose pieces of yourself. When you let memory, love, and intention guide you, every corner of your home becomes a reflection of the life you've lived and the joy you still carry. By the time I finished that round of sorting, the rooms felt alive again. Walking through the kitchen, touching the familiar bowls, opening drawers to letters, and seeing photos at eye level, all of it reminded me that the house was mine, my story lived there, and nothing needed to be hidden. I finally understood what Grandma had meant. A home guided by love, not shame, instantly feels like a place you want to live, after 60 or any age, and the small, intentional details make all the difference. Mistake 5. Forgetting that homes need warm layers to feel alive. Grandma's house was never perfect, but it radiated life. Lamps glowed softly in the corners, casting a golden light over well-loved furniture. Photos lined the shelves, each telling a story I could almost hear when I walked past, and little collections of memories. A vase of pressed flowers, a stack of well-thumbed books, a basket of knitting yarn, made every room feel lived in, comforting, and personal. Visiting her felt like stepping into a warm hug. Even on rainy afternoons, the house seemed to breathe life around me. My new home, after downsizing and purging, looked neat, tidy, and very orderly. Yet it felt strangely empty, almost like a hotel room or a staged show house. The floors gleamed, the counters were bare, and surfaces reflected light without personality. Walking through it, I felt a subtle chill, a quiet that made me question whether this was the kind of home I wanted after 60. Something subtle happens when you remove too much. You might gain space, but you lose soul. Without the small layers of life, the house didn't feel like mine, and I missed the warmth that comes naturally from personal touches. Over weeks, I began adding back the lessons Grandma had shown me so effortlessly. A soft lamp on the side table instantly changed the energy in the living room, creating gentle pools of light that made the space inviting even in the late afternoon. I hung a framed photo of my grandchildren above the mantel, letting the image remind me of joy and laughter. A basket of yarn by the armchair beckoned me to sit, knit, and think about the slow, quiet afternoons I still wanted to enjoy. A tiny table by the kitchen window held my morning tea, sunlight hitting the surface perfectly, reminding me that simple rituals can make a home feel sacred. Each addition didn't clutter the space, it layered warmth, purpose, and familiarity over clean lines, making the house feel instantly alive again. I realized that the goal isn't perfection, it's living. As we age, one of the most important shifts is understanding that a home should support emotion as much as function. After 60, subtle layers, the glow of a lamp, the softness of a throw, the gentle presence of personal items, can instantly make a space feel welcoming and safe. The light, textures, and familiar objects all work together to create a rhythm that mirrors the life we want to lead. By placing items intentionally, measuring just enough to feel cozy but not cluttered, I recreated corners that invited me to sit, rest, and enjoy the small pleasures of the day. Here's the secret: homes thrive on memory, ritual, and love. Each layer I added back wasn't about decoration. It was about remembering who I am and what I value. A vase of dried flowers instantly reminded me of my mother's garden. A hand-knit blanket brought comfort and nostalgia, and a favorite mug by the sunny window made mornings feel like an experience rather than a routine. Walking through my rooms now, I can feel the difference. The spaces breathe with warmth, not emptiness. They welcome me, nurture me, and reflect my life. After 60, these small layers matter more than square footage ever could. They transform a house from sterile and efficient into a home that feels lived in, loved, and fully alive. The goal became clear: intentionally layer your home with warmth, memory, and ritual, and you'll create a space that feels alive without clutter. Each addition, no matter how small, adds depth and life, and every room becomes a reflection of the person living in it. I finally understood what Grandma had shown me all those years. Homes aren't about perfection. They're about the moments, the memories, and the love that fills them naturally. Adding those warm layers didn't just change the house, it changed how I felt living in it, and now every corner radiates life in a way that instantly comforts me each day. Grandma's wisdom guided me at every step, even when I stubbornly ignored it at first. I thought downsizing was about clearing space, making my life simpler, and keeping things neat, but she had been trying to show me something much deeper. Her warning wasn't about clutter at all, it was about rushing through life, losing pieces of yourself in the process, and failing to honor what truly matters. I felt it instantly when I saw the empty corners of my new home, cold and silent, and realized that without memory and intention, neatness felt hollow. Downsizing can be freeing, but only when done slowly, thoughtfully, and with memory as your compass. The goal is to move at a pace that feels right for you, after 60 or any time, and to make decisions from a place of care rather than pressure. Something subtle happens when you honor your past. The spaces around you begin to breathe warmth and welcome naturally, turning a house into a home once again. I started to leave room for small treasures that tell my story: Grandma's wooden spoon, a basket of yarn, a framed photo on the side table, and each one brought light and comfort instantly. Here's the secret: before letting something go, ask yourself, does this carry a piece of my story, or a piece of hers? If it does, treat it with care. Place it somewhere visible, meaningful, and safe, where it can remind you of love and connection. One small lamp, one cozy throw, one treasured object can make an entire room feel alive, personal, and welcoming. As we age, it's these gentle, intentional touches that keep our homes, and our hearts, full. Remember, Grandma's warning wasn't about stuff. It was about honoring life, holding on to memories without losing yourself, and creating spaces that feel alive, warm, and comforting every single day.